Hi, this is Dirk for PokerVT. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my work with one of the October 9. It got moved back because of the election, but formerly the November 9. Um, and this is just kind of an intro video. We're not going to get really deep into like serious hand analysis in this series, in this very short series. But it's just an intro video to kind of talk about some big picture issues. And if you I anticipate people are going to be watching this that maybe have no interest in sit and goes, which are what 90% of my videos are on. So if you haven't seen some of my prior videos, I want to get this out there and give some kind of background information. Some background is more of my background and Russell's background. And if you haven't figured it out by now, the person that I was coaching, am coaching still, is Russell Thomas, who is, I think, currently in fourth place, leading into the final table. By the time you see this, it'll all be over. I am actually, just to let you know when I'm recording this, this is October 25th that I'm recording this. So, pretty quick turnaround here, but I'll have we'll definitely have hours of just hand analysis and what I went over in detail there. But I'll do some background, sort of the Russell's background and the background of his coaching, because I'm not his only coach. It would be folly for somebody to, especially somebody in fourth place to, with more than 10 big blinds to be like, hey, you're the only coach I need, because I'm not a deep stack post flop MTT expert like Jay Carver is, and we'll get into Jason Somerville, Jay Carver, his work with Russell as well. I do have some videos for suggested viewing, so if you haven't watched my videos, these are some good theory videos that I want you to check out in advance, because I will be referring back to some concepts from these videos from time to time. I'll try to make an effort, if I run into these concepts, to actually go back and say, oh, by the way, you can find more about this in this video, but I may slip up, and it's just a good idea to watch these ahead of time, probably. We'll talk about the uniqueness of the main event structure, and then we'll talk about kind of the importance of push fold and ICM, and how that fits into the World Series main event structure. We'll talk about direct bubble factors, which I did a previous video on bubble factors, which is something that I'll be in suggested viewing here in a second. We'll talk about the utility value of money, which is, if you watch it's maybe not a concept that I have, mentioned in a lot of videos, but definitely in some of my first videos, because this is kind of the fundamental. If there were a fundamental theorem of sit and goes, it would be coming from the utility value of money. And we'll also see how that has an effect, not just on ICM, but on how you should play here at the final, or how you want to play at the final table. And then I'll kind of lay out what you can expect in the next few videos from me. I've, like I said, this is the first one that I recorded. It is, I have not recorded the other ones yet. I do have outlines, and I have tons and tons of hands to go over and stuff. So I can't tell you that it's going to be, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. It'll get done when we get done. So here's the background here. I've been working with Russell Thomas via Skype. We've had several Skype sessions, team viewer, where he'll, kind of peek in on my screen while I'm breaking down some stuff in maybe some spreadsheets, or with Sit and Go Wizard and whatnot, and we'll sit there and play around with things and look at theoretical situations and absolute situations as well. So it's not just things like, oh, was this play right or wrong? Was this play right or wrong? Because you don't learn that way. You learn by sitting there and saying, okay, well, here's this situation, and maybe I made the right play, maybe I made the wrong play. But what happens if we change this thing? How does this influence things? So it was important to work on that. Jason Somerville, who, if you don't watch my videos, you probably watch Jason's. So, you come to PokerVT, and maybe you're a sit and go person. Okay, you watch my videos. If you're not, you watch Jason's videos. But you see this video about, working with a main event final tableist here from me, and you watch it. So maybe you have some experience with Jason, and that's good. But Jason's area is obviously more deeper stacked play, and this is common amongst really good MTT players, is they're not short stack experts, and they don't really need to be, and we'll talk about why that is here in a bit. But he wanted to bring me on board, and if you don't know, Jason and I have known each other for years. We blog on the same site, which is a relatively small site, actually. It's not like a major site hosting 100 blogs or anything like that. We don't really update our blogs too much anymore, but they are there. There was a plane in the background, fairly close. I don't know if you could hear that. But we've known each other for a long time, and if you don't know the story, that is actually how I got on with PokerVT. Is Jason was working with PokerVT for, I don't know if it was like 6 months or a year and 6 months or something like that. But he had been signed to them, and then PokerVT was looking for a new sit and go person, and I had just basically come off of winning the high stakes leaderboard on Full Tilt Poker. Rest in peace, Full Tilt Poker. I had just a stellar first half of the year there, and was moving out to Vegas and all this stuff, and he said, "Hey, PokerVT, why don't you hire this guy? He knows what he's doing with sit and goes. He just he won all kinds of stuff, plays at the highest levels and stuff." And that's kind of how I got on board with PokerVT. So I don't think it's unusual for Jason to come to me to get some help on some of the short stack push fold situations. Now, Russell himself, he spent time with Jason. Jason has a spot in Toronto and Stony Brook in New York, and he spent time at both places. And kind of probably the part in Stony Brook is more interesting and more public, because Jason has, I guess he's got some camera people. I haven't even watched these episodes, I have to admit. But he's got some camera people in here, and he's put all this on YouTube. And as of right now, at least, 4 of these videos are up. So you can go into youtube.com/jcarverpoker here and go view some of these. So this is basically, they did a lot of simulations where they basically sat down and said, okay, and they got good poker players in there, many of whom I know personally, and many of whom blog on the same site as Jason and I do. We're all part of the same crew, and some pretty big names in there. A couple bracelet winners aside from Jason. Leo Wolpert, who also blogs on our site, who won the heads up 10K heads up bracelet a few years back. So some really good players, and then they looked at the other players' playing styles, and they kind of emulated them, and they said, okay, well, you might be Leo Wolpert, but you got to pretend you're this guy now. Play like him, and they basically did sit and goes over and over to kind of uncover weaknesses, I assume weaknesses in Russell's game, and just to talk about hands, and you have a lot of really fun poker minds around. I don't think you get the full gist of that in these videos, because they're obviously so short, and I don't think they want to go into the full detailed strategy and stuff behind all of this, at least not at this point. Maybe after the main event is over, but we're still here before the final table. They're not gonna say, oh, by the way, Russell's doing this and this and this, although people can probably put together, the pieces. If they're savvy enough to look up their opponents online or something, they're going to be like, this guy's working with Jason. Well, let's see how Jason plays, and maybe get some insight there. Russell's background, he's not really a major grinder. He's not a complete newcomer when it comes to, that's weird. Okay, so he's not a complete newcomer when it comes to poker, but he's not a real, serious grinder in either. He actually, when I started talking to him the first time, he did have experience with sit and goes. He knew about ICM. He knew about all the tools out there for doing ICM, which was great for me because, it's not that I would call it a waste of time, but it's great to have somebody who already kind of knows about these things, even if they haven't done it for years. Like, I mean, that's kind of the ideal situation, anyways. Somebody's aware of this, and I don't have to sit there and really go over the basics. And he had actually watched some of my recent videos and stuff, and so I kind of even had to like scrub some of that out and just say like, don't, this is not so important for what you're doing and all this stuff. He has a background in math and prob and stats, and he's in he got a degree. I think he got a degree. I don't know. We haven't talked too much like about personal life or anything like that. So although I'm fairly sure he has some sort of degree in economics, or he works as an actuary or something. I don't know. But he has just good mathematics background. So that's always a plus. Now I'll get into the suggested viewing before really. I'm not saying suggested viewing before watching the rest of this video, because that's not really necessary. But I will say suggested viewing before watching the next series of videos. So when we actually start talking about hands, you probably should have seen some of these. Okay, the one on error theory is kind of important, and I mean that's good for anybody anyway. That's not just a sit and go thing. That's an MTT thing and whatever. I did a recent video on the gigabit dilemma. That's not so important, but we may touch on it a little bit here. I did a video on ICM and MTTs, and I think that's where I was talking about the average bubble factors from the Kill Everyone book. And we'll go in more detail in this video on that sort of thing, and I'll do a quick recap as well. And then some of my very earliest videos, I mean, you may look at my list of videos, I don't even know what it is now, 80, 90, 100 or something.